Hey guys, how's it going? Steve, Interglobal Comics. It's been a little bit since I've done a market report, so I'm going to kind of get right into it. There's been some pretty interesting sales, and a couple big sales, and big books have sold. So we'll just kind of go through what I've seen over the last, I think it's been about a month or so, or a few weeks at least. All right, so first up, we've got this AF-15 from Greece. I can't remember if this was the first print or the second print. Judging by this picture, it's hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure this is the first print because the colors are more vivid, and it says number 167. I believe the second print AF-15 was, quite a bit higher in the run, like 300s maybe. So this sold for $100. Pretty inexpensive. Condition's not all that great, but these aren't going to get any easier to find. They're little digest size Greek books. Just a highly sought after foreign key, and one that the price really hasn't appreciated much over the years, but I would think at some point they're gonna start to dry up, and they'll start going up in price. So $100 for that one. It's pretty seems pretty fair deal to me for the first print. This was a pretty interesting one. This wasn't a high grade book or anything. It sold for $305. This is the second print Greek ASM 129. This is the red cover one. That's the digest size, and then there's a Cabela's Hana, or what is that? Cabanas Hellas ASM 129 that has kind of more of the traditional colors, but it actually contains, I think it's ASM 13 on the interior. And that one's more of a regular comic size, and it's older. Both of those very sought after books. ASM 129 is one of the biggest books for set builders. So these Greek books are, especially the first print, is definitely one of the harder ones to find. The second one, I think I've had a couple copies over the years, but I've always sold them. Or when I did have an extra copy, I think I sold my extra for less than $100 because it was pretty low grade. So it was interesting to see this one hit over $300. And then I think the one that really surprised everyone was this one. This is the ASM 300 from Greece. Does not, if I remember correctly, does not contain ASM 300 on the interior. Pretty low grade copy, nothing crazy. Grade wise, and sold for $510. I've got a pretty low grade copy of this, and seeing this sale was definitely made me interested in being like, I'm never gonna complete the ASM 300 set, so do I really need this, or would I rather have $500? As of now, I'll probably just hang on to it, but it's pretty interesting to see a book like this jump up in price so high. It wasn't that long ago that the ASM 300 from the Philippines, was selling in the $800 to $1,000 range, and now that's, $3,000 plus. So, is that the way this Greek book's going to go eventually? We'll just have to see. And I think the Filipino version is much rarer, but there's enough set builders that the competition is getting pretty fierce. Another Greek. This is the 1 and 2 lot. It's actually a pretty high grade looking copy of issue 1. Those are pretty tough to get in decent shape. And a lot of them have been pulled from a bind. This one doesn't look like it was pulled from a bind. I was actually pretty interested in this one. But the seller said he would only ship to Europe, and then it didn't sell for a while, and then I think he might have changed his shipping methods because it sold. I think he decided to sell to probably to American market as well, and the for that price these books would sell pretty quick. So $139 didn't seem like a bad deal at all for the condition on that Fantastic Four number 1. These are just some Australian price variants. Pretty interesting to see how these have grown. $385 for this New Mutants 100. X-Men 281 sold for $149, and X-Force 11 sold for $149 as well. So yeah, these seem to be picking up steam. More and more people are getting interested in these Australian price variants. So to people that were collecting those early on, you're probably sitting pretty good with the books you have. Next up is the Jaffa Conan 1, sold for $166 and $20 Australian shipping. Pretty nice looking copy. For some reason, I was able to pick up a couple of these from a thrift store in the United States, which was pretty strange, but there was a thrift store. They had several copies of it, and they listed them on eBay a few years ago. I think I picked up 2 for $30 a piece. Kind of weird that a thrift store in America would have Australian vintage, pretty hard to find Jaffa comics, but you can't pass a deal up like that. Another Jaffa Spider-Man or Spider-Woman 1 from Australia. Probably these kind of key or semi-key Jaffa comics they just don't come up for sale very often. Especially like the big number ones rarely come up for sale. So I was surprised to see this at $100 though. I didn't think this one would get quite that high. This was my sale. This was a Newton Avengers 4. I just put up kind of a high price there, but I think I got an offer for, I think it was $150, right around there, from a guy I've sold books to before. So I said, why not? Let's just make the sale. Hard to find book. This one did not have the poster inside. That's why I wasn't too worried about selling for a slightly better deal. And make someone happy and make a little money at the same time, so why not? So this was a strange sale because I believe, if I remember correctly, there was this one was just a low grade copy of Fantastic Four #1. It had the poster, but it was detached, and I think with those Fantastic Four, ones, the posters that comes in the Newton Fantastic Four #1 was used in several Newton comics. It's a poster of the Black Panther. So with a detached copy, you just never know if someone had just grabbed a poster out of one of the other Newtons and shoved it in there and said it has the poster. I'm not saying that's what this guy did, but with a detached poster, it's gonna be worth way less in my mind. Still sold, even if the poster was attached, still sold really cheap. That's kind of what everyone keeps saying is probably don't want to sell your books at auction right now, because these Newton keys, obviously a couple years ago they were selling for crazy money, $800 to $1,000 for the big &1s, and here we have the Fantastic Four #1, which was one of the harder ones to find, sold for less than $200. So yeah, it has a detached poster, but even if it didn't have any poster at all, I would have thought it was sold probably for at least $200 to $300. Some more Newtons, a couple ASM ones. These are obviously pretty sought after. Both of them had no posters. One sold for $400, which comes out to, I don't know, it's probably right around $200 American. No poster, and then a real low grade copy sold for probably right around $150 American dollars. So this is Batman Adventures 12, the tome version, which means it's like in a bind kind of. But the interesting thing about these French kind of combined issues is they didn't trim the books. All they did was they put them together, put a little bit of hot glue on the spine, and put a new cover on them and sold them as like a trade paperback. So kind of a little secret that I've learned over the years is that if you buy these collected issues, and you used to be able to pick them up for $4 or $5, like they were cheap because nobody wanted them. They were looking just for the Batman Adventures 12 single issue, but these collected issues, if you just heated the spine up a little bit, the comic books just popped right out, and really with little damage at all. So pretty interesting little tidbit there. If you can find one of these, it's worth grabbing. If you can get a cheap deal on it, I was kind of surprised this one sold for $99. If you get a cheap deal on it, you can more than likely pop the Batman Adventures 12 out without even damaging the comic at all. And like I said, it's not trimmed, so you're not gonna, you could send it to CGC and still get a blue label as long as you don't leave a bunch of glue all over the book or anything. It's an Italian Ultimate Fallout 4. The variant cover sold for $150. Actually, not Italian. This is the French version. Tomb of Dracula 10. This is the French edition. This is like the little pocket-sized book, real thick, and it sold for $60, which is actually pretty inexpensive because I've sold a few of these in the past for closer to $100. But this one's coming directly from France, and it has the what I like to call like the lottery shipping. It's super cheap, $3 international shipping, and the chances of you getting your book in the mail are about 50-50, I would say, when they use this super cheap shipping. So hopefully this guy got his book. But yeah, in a situation like that, I would ask them to upgrade the shipping costs and pay a little more. She-Hulk 1 sold for $69. This one's definitely gotten a little harder to find and has gotten more expensive. You used to be able to find these really cheap on French eBay and just in the French marketplace, but definitely not anymore. They just don't really pop up anymore. This one went pretty cheap. This was the French-Canadian ASM 361, first appearance of Carnage. You can just tell from the last few market reports, these first appearances of Carnage just aren't selling well at all. Just kind of one of those books that the movie just kind of killed the value of the comic book. So this is that same French seller with the lottery shipping. He's really selling off some books pretty inexpensive. You got a Batman Adventures 12, sold for $40. But this one, from what I could tell, looks like it was pulled from the bind, from the tome, and they didn't do a good job of it. It looks like they didn't heat the glue up, so just ripped the color off the spine. So that's probably why that one went so cheap, because these sell for well over $100, if they're in decent shape. And then this one was really cheap, because this is the really hard Tomb of Dracula 10 from France. The one I showed you earlier is like the real thick one. This one's a slightly less thick version that actually came out first, and this one sold for only $35. Really cheap. He definitely could have sold that for more, but just cool books overall, and books I wish I would have seen, because I would have picked both of the. Or I would definitely would have picked the Tomb of Dracula up. I would have left the Batman Adventures probably. This is another one of my sales, ASM 129. This is like printed in the 2000s, the French edition. It doesn't come up for sale very often. This one was pretty high grade, and I ended up selling it for like $50. This finally sold. This is a lot of Action Comic 242s from Mexico and Spain. The actual one that's really worth anything is the Navarro. This one, but you can see on the whole left side of the book, it has color touch and is completely waterlogged. But yeah, still very hard book to find. And then these other two are the Spanish Libro comics, they're called. They're kind of like a little bit thicker trade paperback with like a cardboard cover, cool redrawn cover. I'm not sure who did the covers, but one of those has the 242 story inside, and the other one doesn't. But this is kind of like the whole set for $150, so really not a terrible deal. But you definitely would want to upgrade that Mexican 242 eventually. Werewolf by Night 32. This was a 5.0. Sold for $13.50. I believe this one actually went for best offer. It was like $900 something. So this popped up for sale. I actually listed my Werewolf by Night 32 from Spain, but mine's at 3.0, and I listed it for like $9.99 just in accepting offers. And then this one popped up, and I had a guy that was sending me offers, and then he ended up buying this one. So kind of a bummer, but he got a better deal just because he got the 5.0 instead of the 3.0. So I actually ended up pulling mine down off eBay. I just was getting tired. I kept getting all these lowball offers, and people just don't really realize, I guess, how expensive some of these foreign keys are and how hard they are to find. So I've owned a few of these, and the cheapest one I've ever gotten was over $200, but I think that one had some restoration going on with it, and I've had a couple of restored ones, and the two decent copies I sent to CGC, one came back 3, one came back a 4.5, and some of those I had to buy the entire run of Werewolf by Night 32 and I spent I think $700 to $800 on the whole run just to basically get the Werewolf by Night 32s. So, and that's directly from Spain, doing all the legwork and searching for them and dealing with the foreign seller and hoping they packed it well and dealing with the customs. So really there's no way I would sell mine for anything less than probably $800, or even I don't even know if I would go that low. If I sold it off eBay, I'd do 800. But when you're getting low ball offers of $300, 250, 300, 400, it just gets old after a while. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna pull this off eBay. And maybe one day down the road I'll put it back up there, but right now I'm totally content having 2 copies. So there's a couple Spanish keys, ASM 300 sold for $115, and a Batman Adventures 12 for $200, both look in pretty nice condition. These, I feel like the Spider-Man 300s have pretty much been selling for the same price forever, right around $100 from Spain. Almost, that's about what you're going to pay if you buy it direct from Spain, and it's about what they sell for on American eBay. So there's not a whole lot of markup there. Batman Adventures 12, you can get lucky and find one for cheap in Spain, and they seem to be slowly creeping up in value because these used to sell for $150, and now I'm noticing more sales closer to the $200 range. So yeah, here we go. I kind of searched, and somebody's selling a bunch of these. These look like all the same seller. Pretty much look like all the same picture. But yeah, one March 19th for $200, March 15th 150, and March 11th for $200. So somebody's just sitting on a stack of these, and there are shops that have stacks of these in Spain, because I've been able to buy from one buyer 4 or 5 copies at a time. I'm just assuming they just have an old shop or bookstore or something like that, and they just got old inventory just sitting in boxes, because you can tell that they haven't really been read, but they just got shelf wear and color rub and stuff like that from just sitting. So pretty interesting. Here's another one of those Spanish Action Comic 242s. This one sold for $65. Pretty good sale for the seller, because those can still be found pretty inexpensive. So here goes. Here's kind of a cautionary tale of why you don't use the foreign titles when you're listing foreign comics. That's what this person did. They didn't put anywhere that it was Batman Adventures 12. They put Aventuras de Batman 12, first Harley Quinn. And you can see it sold for $46, which is about a quarter of what they could have gotten for it had they just put Batman Adventures 12 somewhere in the title. Todd McFarlane, Spain, Batman 423 sold for $50. This was a pretty high sale for this comic. This is the Brazilian ASM 300 with the different McFarlane cover. It's like interior panel art used as the cover. Sold for $124. Pretty solid sale. I've only ever seen these sell for, at the most like $80 to $100. So someone made a good sale on this, and it could be creeping up in value. I'm not really sure. You don't see a ton of these changing hands, but it's not like a super rare book. That one Brazilian seller that has a zebra print in the background, they're kind of blowing the market for Brazilian. I don't know, maybe I've discussed this already, but they're kind of blowing the market for Brazilian more modern titles. They're selling them so cheap. If they would just, rather than starting all their books at $15 auctions, if they would just put it at like a $45, $30 buy it now, they would help, that would help the market a little bit. But they're just kind of undercutting everybody, and it's good for the people that are collecting foreigns and are trying to get things cheap as possible. But some of these books had established prices of $80 to $100. They've been selling in that range for years, and all of a sudden here comes somebody that keeps listing the same keys over and over again at $15. So they're just kind of tanking the market, really. Captain America Golden Age from Brazil, a Guri, sold for $471. Weird frog cover going on there. This is a really nice Jaime Cortez Brazilian horror cover from the 60s, sold for $475, so it's a solid sale. Here's the newest Mexican foil. Seems like every week there's a new one. So this is the Quinto Mundo, wherever this shop is. They're really blowing these foil covers out. Every single key they're making foil covers for, and I wasn't too happy with this one because they used, this is the German cover, the Adam Hughes art with no underwear. That's been a German key since the last 10, 15 years. It's been on the market, and they, rather than letting that German book have the designation of having the only foreign copy with that cover art, they decided to use that art on their foil cover. Granted, they've already printed this in Mexico. There's one that was actually printed in, I don't know when this comic came out, 2014, 2015? So, I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me. It's just kind of a cash grab. And the other stupid thing is that they used, what is it? I think it's the X-Men 5 from the 90s. The Omega Red versus Wolverine cover. They made a foil cover of it, and it's selling for crazy money, but they use the Australian price variant as the cover. So it's not even the American edition. It's just they're just targeting foreign comic collectors with all these foil covers and like set builders, and it's just getting old in my opinion. But I've already talked about it enough. I'll move on. Here's a nice grab, Forever People 216 from Mexico. First appearance of Dark Side, $25. Detective Comics 241. The first appearance of Batman's rainbow costumes, multicolored Batman, sold for $115. So not a bad sale. It's a cool book. I think I've got one of these. I can't really remember what condition it's in, but just a fun cover. Captain Marvel 14, the Italian foil, sold for $51. It's pretty cheap. They used to sell for quite a bit more than that. This is Daredevil 1 from Italy. Low-grade copy. You can see there's tape on the spine, pretty crumpled up. But it's an original copy, sold for less than $150, so that's a pretty good deal for whoever bought it. This one was kind of perplexing to me. It's a Todd McFarlane Superman cover. I guess it was only used in Brazil. Sold for $200. This is a book I've seen Brazilian sellers trying to sell for. It's just one of those books that they would keep listing just because they would never sell. So it's pretty interesting to see that this one sold for $200. I guess just people love McFarlane and people love Superman, so I guess there's not too much art of Superman done by McFarlane. So this was a grab for somebody at $200, though. Seems pretty high. A couple more Guris. I believe these were pulled from a bind, or they were pretty low grades, but the prices on these are crazy cheap. Most of these have been selling in the $200 to $300 range for years now. So to be able to grab these for around $74 or $75 a piece, not a bad deal. And I I think I know the guy that won them. I think it was my friend Matt. So congrats to him for getting some good deals, because he was showing these off, I think, in the foreign comic group on Facebook. This one was one that I thought would be pretty cheap, and I already have a decent copy, but I was like, oh, not a bad one to have a second copy of. It's the Batman or Detective Comics 359 first appearance of Batgirl from Yugoslavia. They used interior panel as the cover, but just a really cool recolor, and just kind of a weird book. It's huge. It's oversized, bigger than magazine size. But this one actually, the last couple I've seen sell for right around $30, maybe $40. So this one went double. This one went for $81. So there's a couple guys after this one. This is a Casper the Ghost #1, the cover art for a 9.0 Brazilian. I don't know much about Casper books, but $450, seems like a pretty strong price. But also finding a Brazilian 9.0 with an all black cover like that is almost probably impossible. And it's kind of a cool infinity cover going on there. So, someone that's a Casper collector probably just couldn't resist it. 5.5 Spider-Man 20 Mexican edition, sold for $400. Seems pretty cheap for kind of the first appearance of a major Spider-Man villain. But you never know how these auctions are gonna go. You compare $400 for this actual Silver Age piece of a Mexican comic history, or the foil reprint of Hombre Araña 128, sold for $150. I think I would go for this one, but I also do have this one, and I love this one, just because it is 128. Yeah, it's foil, but at this point, this book, it doesn't really matter. I wanted it. I bought it right when it first came out. But the whole backstory with this one's pretty weird too. But I've already talked about that in past episodes, how it was supposed to be sold by La Mole, but they couldn't get it approved by Marvel. So rather than just scrap the idea, they printed them anyways and just basically sold them out the back door. So they didn't want to deal with a lawsuit. Somebody said that CGC won't slab these anymore, but I don't know, I think they still do, because I'm seeing a number of them coming out slabbed. So, but beautiful book, beautiful cover. I like the change of colors, at least on that one. But I think I got my set for $50, $75, something like that. They're only going to go up in price, I'm sure. Supergirl Legion Superheroes, Adam Hughes. So this is I believe it's the Italian and Spanish maybe, or Mexican. Spanish. So sold for less than $124. So that's not a bad sale at all. I've seen the Italian sell for almost $100 on its own. So someone got a great deal on that one. Looks like that's JF's eBay. So he's always giving people good deals and selling lots of foreign books. Someone was happy with that one. This was my sale. I'm trying to remember what I sold it for. I think I sold it for $140, maybe right around there, $135. I was asking $200. So this one used to be this is a Green Lantern 76. This used to be my personal copy, but recently I was able to upgrade my personal copy. So this one I was able to sell. So that one, I was happy to sell it. I was able to get a decent deal on the new one that I added to the collection. So I was happy. So $135. You got to just keep books moving. I put books up pretty expensive on eBay just because you're going to get low ballers all day long. But really the only way to deal with it is kind of to start your price high and then work your way down. This is the La Sombra, the Shadow Pulp from Spain. I'm really kicking myself for not buying these earlier on. These used to just be sitting on different Spanish market websites, and you could pick them up for under $100 a piece, sometimes for less than $40-$50. Now they're selling for $650. So that's definitely a solid sale. And it's all tied to the original American pulp cover that sold. I can't remember what it was, but it sold crazy high at auction. So you know, there's some tie to the American and foreign market. So yeah, when the American book just goes sky high, the foreign books tend to follow somewhat. You know, they're not gonna go as high, but they definitely will get a nice bump in price. Dolmen 16, classic Adam Hughes cover that was only used in Spain. Not quite officially from what I've heard, because he won't sign these, but CGC will slab them. This one sold for $325, so this one just keeps kind of creeping up as well. I've seen a few sell in the $300-400 range. So real pretty cover, nice looking book. I actually just sent mine off to CGC. I only have one copy. It's just a pretty book. I want to, maybe put in a slab, and I think the highest graded is like an 8.0. So I'm gonna see if I come close. Probably not, but we'll see. This is first appearance of Star-Lord from Spain. Sold for $135. So kind of interesting story. Got like a dealer guy that's been buying books from me. He just kind of wants books, whatever, I'll sell him the cheapest possible. And I think he's reaching out to a few foreign sellers. He just wants them as cheap as possible. And I was like, all right, I got a couple books I haven't been able to sell, and gave him good deals on them. And he's got, I guess, a pretty big eBay store. And cause it's funny, because anytime I look up books, his books are almost always some of the first to show up on my search results. But yeah, he bought this for me for $30 and was able to flip it for $135 within a month. So definitely not a bad deal. So I guess some of these dealers they're getting interested in foreigns. They want to add some to their collections, and they can see that there's an interest in the foreigns, and also decent profit margins that they can really make some money if they wanted to. So I thought that was interesting. So he showed me up, because I had this listed for like $45 on my eBay page. He offered me $30. I accepted, and then he went and quickly flipped it for $135. Another Batman 423. This is the German edition, sold for $86. This is, what is that, Campbell, Spider-Man 688. I'm not really sure why this comic is so sought after. I hear people saying it's a beautiful cover and it's a rare book, but man, that's to me is just an ugly cover. And does anyone really care about like a modern day Lizard cover? I'm not really sure, but this, no matter what, this sold cheap, because I've seen people sell these raw for more than this price. This is a 9.8, sold for $58. The Tales of Suspense 39, which contains Iron Man and Tales of Astonish 27 on the interior. Decent looking copy, sold for $279. And a couple Fantastic Four 48s. First appearance of Galactus and Silver Surfer. One sold for $120, another for $80. And so this was kind of an interesting sale. It finished yesterday. I was bidding on it because it stayed fairly cheap, and this actually, even at this price, is still cheap. Fantastic Four #1 from the UK, Creepy Worlds 32. So this seller just bought this from the UK marketplace. They paid, I think, $5.15 for it, and I guess they figured they would make a quick flip on the American eBay and make a bunch of money on it. But really, they didn't do very good, because they paid $5.15 for it and they sold it for $6.43. So if you pretty much calculate whatever their eBay fees were, they paid tax on the initial purchase of $5.15, so probably they paid like $5.50 for it total, and then they sold it for $6.43. And let's say they paid a 13% fee to eBay, so that's $83. So really, $6.43 minus 43, or no, oh man, I already messed it up. Hold on. So it was $6.43 minus. So yeah, they made probably less than probably like $30-$40 on this book. So really to have to buy a book, wait for it to come all the way from the UK, and then try and flip it, you want to at least make double your money. So this was a book probably better not to run as an auction. Probably should have just sent it to CGC, gotten a 4.0 or maybe a 5.0, and listed it for 1,000. But people, like I said, people are getting interested in these foreign books, dealers, and flippers, and they can see that you can make money on it. But right now, auction's not really the way to go. If I didn't already have a copy, I would have probably kept bidding on this. I bid it up to, I think, right around $400, and then I tapped out. But $643 was the going rate. Here's another one I was bidding on. I actually have one of these already, but it stayed pretty cheap for a little while, but went up to $75. It's the Australian first appearance of Ra's al Ghul. And they didn't mention the U.S. title in there, so had they mentioned the U.S. numbering, it probably would have gone even higher than that. And finally, a book that I was bidding on for a while and super excited about, because all I saw was like the initial title, and it looked like a nice copy of Hulk 1 Jaffa from Australia. And I was all ready to go all in and spend $500, maybe a little bit more on it. But then if you research and read the whole title, it's actually missing the splash page. So if it's missing the splash page, it's more than likely missing the back page as well. The whole wrap, I would assume. So I don't know if they added that information in after the fact, or if it just never really showed when I looked the book up. But I'm glad I didn't even notice it until maybe 2 or 3 days before the auction ended, and I was like, and even at $260 missing the splash page, that might have, not a terrible price, but that might have been overpaying a little bit. But it is a rare book; it's hard to find. But I'm gonna keep waiting. I'd rather get a low grade copy that's complete for, spend a little bit more than get a nice looking copy but missing the splash page. But really cool book, crazy colors. Australians, they were definitely doing some drugs when they were making their comics, because they went crazy with the colors. And that's it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that little market report. If you got any input, please leave a comment or suggestions, and we'll go from there. All right, have a good night. Bye.